It is past midnight on the East Coast, but we have some breaking news to talk about, and the grind never stops. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now. My name is Chase Sr. I appreciate all of you for hanging out here with me late. If you're waking up with me on Saturday morning, that is fantastic as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for the latest Philadelphia Eagles coverage right here on Eagles Now. The breaking news tonight, the blockbuster trade finally went down. The Las Vegas Raiders are trading pass rusher Maxx Crosby to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks. I'm going to react to that and how it ties in and impacts the Philadelphia Eagles because I did a video on this earlier because according to some chatter out there, Howie Roseman potentially was willing to include Jalen Carter in a Maxx Crosby trade. Obviously, that doesn't happen. And the Dallas Cowboys made a big pursuit for Maxx Crosby. They don't land him, and now one of the top pass rushers and overall players in the NFL is going to the AFC and the Baltimore Ravens. I do have an exciting announcement that I want to pass along to the people. Since I was young, I have wanted to have a national football show where I talk about the NFL and college football on a national scale. And here at Chat Sports, I've been able to build Philadelphia Eagles now into a powerhouse, 145,000 subscribers. We're reaching millions and millions of people every single month. It's a true honor to host this show, especially as a guy and a kid who grew up loving this team in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I had dreams of being a kid, or when I was a kid, of covering the Eagles professionally and to be able to do it and get paid for it. It's something that is a blessing. I am honored to do this. I am humbled. I am grateful. I'm so thankful for all of your support here on the show. Here at Chat Sports as well, I also am the VP of Content Strategy. I help to oversee our company from a strategy standpoint, and I've been able to help us build the company as a whole. But what I've always wanted to do, as I mentioned, is host a national football show. So I am launching my own personal YouTube channel under the Chat Sports umbrella, where I'll be talking about the NFL mostly, a little bit of college football from a national perspective, and it's called The Chase Down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the first episode link as the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. If you could help me out, go over there, hit that subscribe button if you want to join me to just talk football on a consistent basis. I'd appreciate it if you support me over there and hit that subscribe button. So it's the pinned comment of today's show. It's called The Chase Down. I reacted to this Maxx Crosby trade in full. And if you go over there and support that channel and hit that sub button, I'd really appreciate it. I want to be the fastest channel in the history of Chat Sports to get to 1,000 subs. All right, let's talk about how this Maxx Crosby trade impacts the Eagles here. Enough of all the other stuff. So earlier today, it was reported by Pretty Ricky, everybody's favorite dog on X, that Howie Roseman was including or willing to include Jalen Carter in a trade for Maxx Crosby. I did a video on this earlier. I put it up on social media, and it went crazy. And Raiders GM John Spytek and Howie Roseman worked together in Philadelphia. They made a trade together last year. When I was at the NFL Combine, John Spytek was talking about how he's learned from Howie, how he's got to be careful in making moves with Howie because Howie is so great at what he does. And if the Eagles were serious about landing Crosby, you don't just get an elite player by giving up nothing. The Baltimore Ravens gave up 2 first-round picks. So if the Eagles were actually interested in Crosby and they didn't want to give up multiple first-round picks, could they have included Jalen Carter in that deal? That would allow them to not sacrifice major draft capital. Philadelphia then, maybe from their point of view, could build around and extend Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo to be their defensive tackles in the future, and Maxx Crosby could have been sent to Philadelphia. Obviously, that is not happening, and he is going to the Baltimore Ravens. But I thought it was a fascinating discussion and trade idea because in the NFL, you don't always see star player for star player trades. You see players going for picks because usually the team that is trading a star is trying to rebuild. How do you rebuild? By compiling as many draft assets as possible. So a star player for star player trade would be so rare, and it would allow the Raiders to build around Jalen Carter, him being 24, soon to be 25, as a younger player who's extension eligible, who the Raiders could have locked up, over building around Maxx Crosby and having to rebuild again over a 29-year-old who's got some injury problems. Now, a lot of you may have been wondering, like, Chase, why would the Eagles trade Jalen Carter? To get an elite player, got to give up an elite player or premium draft picks. Trading Carter allows the Eagles to land Crosby without having to give up those 2 first-rounders. With him being extension eligible, Raiders could have used Carter as a serious building block. This is also of note, too, that a salary cap conversion on Maxx Crosby's deal could drop the cap hit from $30.7 million to $7.73 million, according to Spotrac. So that could have been very attractive to Howie Roseman as well. And with Carter, he had the bilateral shoulder injuries last year. Did the Eagles feel comfortable giving him a big money extension because it could be around $30 million? Milton Williams got 26. Chris Jones right now is the highest paid defensive tackle. I don't know if Jalen Carter surpasses him, but it would have been a shocking, crazy, insane trade. As I've talked about on the show, I would have just, and what I want the Eagles to do is just keep Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is younger. Jalen Phillips is cheaper. Jalen Phillips is more affordable. Jalen Phillips last year averaged more pressures per game than Maxx Crosby. You know he fits the scheme. You know Vic Fangio loves him. He, like Maxx Crosby, is a really good player against the run. Build some continuity, save some money, and you don't have to give up a Jalen Carter and draft picks. You could just retain Jalen Phillips for $20 to $25 million as compared to Crosby on that huge, massive contract as he's ended the last 3 years injured and he's starting to get a little bit older. So what I'm going to do right now, after that brief instant reaction to the Maxx Crosby trade from the Eagles standpoint, again, I launched this new football show. It's called The Chase Down. Link is the pinned comment of this edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now. From here on out, the rest of the video is going to be my reaction and a clip from that show that I'm going to tack on here to try to encourage you to hit that subscribe button on the Chase Down if you haven't already done so. Again, I appreciate your support. Sorry if I was a word full, but I'm really excited for this professional endeavor, something new, another step. Nothing is going to change here on Eagles Now. Still going to give you fantastic coverage, but I'm just really excited to expand my brand a little bit. So the rest of this video, reaction to the Maxx Crosby trade from the Chase Down, go over there, hit that subscribe button. And again, thank you so much for your support. Maxx Crosby traded to the Baltimore Ravens. And all along here over the last few weeks, as this idea and these conversations have started to intensify, the question was, what's the asking price? What are the Raiders going to get if they do trade away Maxx Crosby? And the Raiders' asking price all along, what they were demanding, 2 first-round picks. And the Baltimore Ravens are going all in. They're putting their nuts on the table, and they're giving up 2 first-round picks to get it done in 2026 and 2027. And when you look at this trade, I think both teams, the Raiders, the Ravens, they win here. You think about Maxx Crosby, so close with Mark Davis, really beloved by that fan base, and that respect, admiration, that love was reciprocated. Maxx Crosby was a Las Vegas Raider to his core. He got the logo tatted on him. And that type of mentality that Al Davis built, that John Madden helped to fortify and build, is what Baltimore has been all about defensively and culturally my entire life. Starting in the early 2000s under Brian Billick, they won a Super Bowl with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Haloti Ngata. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. What have you remembered about the Baltimore Ravens? Well-run organization, led by owner Steve Bisciotti, one of the best owners in the history of professional sports. His press conference a few weeks ago was a clinic. Terry Pegula, take notes. And they've always been a defensive-oriented, tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar, gritty, physical football team. So if you're thinking of a team that Maxx Crosby could go to, where he can help go from defining the Raiders way to defining what another organization stands for, the Baltimore Ravens are a great match. And for him, been in the league since 2019. He's been one of the best players in the National Football League since then as a former fourth-round pick, small school guy. He used to drive John Gruden crazy early in his career because he was always hitting the quarterback in practices in the red shirt, and Gruden went nuts, threatened to cut him, and Crosby said, if you don't want me to hit the quarterback, then you got to block me. That mentality has carried him through, and he has been a grinder. He's been a player who's never been the twitchiest, the most athletic, the strongest, the fastest. But because of his hustle, because of his football IQ, him emptying the tank on every single down, which is absolutely admirable with how he plays a game of football, he would go all out, 0 to 100, leave it all on the field for the Raiders. And now he's going to bring that to a Ravens organization that takes pride in that type of approach to the game of football. And again, for Crosby, since coming into the league, been to the playoffs once. Has only played in one playoff game in his career. He's going to be 29 years old this upcoming season. He can get the Raiders logo tatted on him, and he can preach to Raider Nation, and he will go down as an all-time Raider. But when you deal with constant dysfunction and coaches getting fired and constantly having a new boss and then having to stare down more years of a rebuild because the Raiders aren't close to winning, that can be taxing mentally, physically, spiritually. Maxx Crosby wanted to go somewhere where he could win. Going to Baltimore, he can win. There are some pieces on the defensive side of the football. You've got Lamar Jackson at quarterback. That is a team that is ready to compete and win a Super Bowl right now, and they have been in that window since Lamar took over as a starter and won MVP in his first full season as a starting quarterback. And you look at the AFC power structure right now, it's wide open. You don't know when Patrick Mahomes is coming back. The Houston Texans, great defense, but is CJ Stroud a good quarterback in this league? We absolutely have no idea. The New England Patriots just represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. They've got a lot of holes, especially at the wide receiver spot. Cincinnati Bengals, can Joe Burrow ever stay healthy? Plus, it's a dysfunctional organization. The Bills are great, but they haven't been able to get over the hump. They make the trade for Curtis Samuel. Las Vegas Raiders, Baltimore Ravens, they make a deal, and the Ravens say, hold my beer. We're going to one-up you big time and trade for Maxx Crosby here. So going back to that point where, I was talking about how I think both teams win this trade, for the Raiders, this is how you kickstart your rebuild. You pair your number one overall pick at quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, with a very bright, impressive, young, up-and-coming offensive-minded head coach who's learned from his father in Gary Kubiak, talking about Clint Kubiak here. He's coached under the likes of Kyle Shanahan. He's been a coordinator. He's called plays. He just learned under Mike McDonald, who looks to be a hell of a damn coach, who I'd love to play for if I was a player. And he just won a Super Bowl. And so you pair that quarterback up with a young, offensive-minded head coach who's going to call plays so you don't have to worry about changing OCs all the damn time, like Jalen Hurts, who's had 11 OCs in 11 years, and you get some continuity there, right? Now you start to build around those two key pillars. The Las Vegas Raiders in the 2026 draft coming up at the end of April in Pittsburgh, they've got the first overall pick. They just got the Ravens first-round selection. That is 14th overall. You get Fernando Mendoza at 1. The possibilities at 14 are endless in this draft. You need an edge rusher, you can get a really good one. You need a wide receiver, you can go wide receiver. You want an offensive tackle because you had a bad offensive line, you can go offensive line. You've got Brock Bowers, you don't need to go Kenyon Sadiq, but is there a DB that you like? Or you could trade out of 14, and the sweet spot in this draft is 50 to 75. You just compile picks and you hit on those picks. You start to build a young core. You change the culture. You can get this team turned around very quickly. Look no further than the New England Patriots, right? The turnaround from 2024 to 2025 was drastic. What did they win? 4 games 2 years ago? This past year, they won, 13, 14 games and made it to the Super Bowl? The NFL is a league where you can go from worst to first very quickly. Now, the Raiders aren't really close to doing that, I don't think, year over year from 2025 to 2026. But this is how you get that kick started. This is how you start building toward that. Because you've got 2 first-round picks this year, first and 14. You're going to have your own pick in 2027. Probably not going to be a winning team right away in 2026. So let's say that pick is top 15 at the very least. Then you get the Ravens selection as well. I like this strategy for Las Vegas. And I took a lot of shit when I said this back during the season when the Raiders were just so awful. But I had said they should trade Maxx Crosby and Brock Bowers, and they should get 4 or 5 first-round picks from those players and get this rebuild going because they are so many pieces away. And how do you build? You get a quarterback on a rookie contract for the next 5 years. You get a bunch of cost-controlled assets if you hit on these draft picks. And a lot of people around the NFL really like John Spytek. The Pete Carroll thing wasn't great, but they like him as a talent evaluator. Learn under Howie Roseman. He's made some aggressive trades thus far and moves as a GM. And you can be competitive here in just a couple of years. So that's kind of the Raiders' point of view that I see right now. From the Ravens' standpoint, look, this is a win-now team. And this fits a win-now Super Bowl window type of move for Baltimore. Are there some risks here for the Raiders? I don't think there are any. Do you want to rebuild with a 29-year-old pass rusher who's ended the last 3 seasons injured, who has a cap hit north of $30 million? Get 2 first-round picks. It's worth it at this time. It's emotionally difficult to let a player like Maxx Crosby go because he's so beloved by the fan base and the organization. But this is the business of the NFL. And this is what you have to do if you want to get a rebuild going and on track. For Baltimore, they can massage Maxx Crosby's contract and make the cap hit go from like 30 plus million to around 7 million, according to Spotrac. And so that's one way that they can absorb this, even though Crosby's making a ton of dough. And for Baltimore, yeah, you give up 2 first-round picks. You see what the Rams have been able to do. F them picks. They've been able to be consistently good, competitive, and a Super Bowl contender year in, year out under Sean McVay. Giving up 2 first-round picks for a player like this, is it risky? Yes, but Maxx Crosby is a damn good football player who's going to be a great scheme fit. And if he could stay healthy, I have no doubts he'll be competitive, and he makes Baltimore so much better. You know, I think the Ravens with defensive personnel have kind of lost their way over the last few years. Like they haven't really invested heavily into a star pass rusher, and it's hurt them. A guy on the edge who has more than 100 TFLs since coming into the league, who is one of the best sack artists and pass rush technicians in the NFL, a guy who plays so hard, who's great for your culture. You have no questions there. This is a real deal move for Baltimore, bringing in a real deal player who I think can really help them. For the Raiders, you got to figure out the whole organizational element to this and building your culture. You got to hit on your picks. This whole Alex Guerrero, Maxx Crosby thing was a little bit weird. What keeps bad organizations bad is bad ownership and a lack of stability. I'm a little bit concerned about that with Las Vegas. I trust Tom Brady because he's the GOAT. John Spytek, a lot of people rave about him. Mark Davis is willing to invest in his football team and do things to try to get back to a winning formula. But if you don't get some of those cracks sealed up and a foundation set, things can continue to go awry. But if the Raiders sit on their picks here, wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years, they're one of the better teams in the AFC. I like Clint Kubiak. I love Fernando Mendoza. I think he's going to be a really good pro whose skill set translates. If Kurt Cignetti liked him, I trust his player evaluation. Plus, with my own eyes, I just love how Mendoza throws with such great timing, touch, accuracy, and anticipation. I mean, how many times did you see him throw those back shoulder fades or those touch throws where he had to layer throws, where he gave his receivers a chance? You can't teach that. I mean, you can have a rocket arm and you can be 6'5", 250. You can be built like Anthony Richardson and throw down windmill dunks on the fast break. And people will say, wow, you can make that back-footed throw week 1 a couple of years ago, drop right in the bucket for, I believe, Alec Pierce. And people will say, oh my gosh, what a throw. doesn't mean that you can be a consistent and successful quarterback in this league. But Mendoza's skill set, I do think translates to being a quality NFL player. I like the character. I like the size. I love the toughness. He was getting lit up by Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain against Miami in the Natty. How about that hit that he took to start the game against Ohio State? Popped. What did he do? Came back in. He was wheeling and dealing. Wasn't fazed by it. And some people were making some Kirk Cousins comparisons. I don't see that, man. I more so see a guy who kind of reminded me of Sam Bradford at Oklahoma. And don't start laughing. Don't disrespect Sam Bradford. Go look at what he did at Oklahoma. He was throwing more than 50 touchdowns, under 10 picks. He was incredible. He's always hurt, but he was a damn good college quarterback with a skill set that looked like he was going to be a franchise quarterback. Too many injuries, went to a bad team, lost his confidence. That's what football will do to you. Professional sports will do to you. But Mendoza, how about that run that he had against Miami? It was athletic. The ability to hang tough in the pocket, good pocket feel, good accuracy, layering throws. Again, the touch, the timing, the anticipation. It's high-level stuff. And then those other draft picks give you a lot of flexibility as a team. How about this? Players who have fetched at least 2 first-round picks in return in the history of the NFL. Maxx Crosby, Sauce Gardner, Micah Parsons, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Laramie Tunsil, Jamal Adams, Khalil Mack, Jalen Ramsey, Jay Cutler, Ricky Williams, Keyshawn Johnson, Jeff George, Eric Dickerson, Herschel Walker. Outside of the quarterbacks there, I think Crosby might be the oldest of that group. And for Baltimore, it's a gamble. But I'm willing to gamble and take chances on elite, great, high-level, franchise cornerstone pillar players. And that's what Maxx Crosby is. Another storyline of this as well is that Jesse Minter, former Chargers DC, now the Ravens head coach who takes over for John Harbaugh, rookie head coach. Clint Kubiak, rookie head coach. You've got rookie head coaches on each side of this, and rookie head coaches in completely different situations and scenarios. Clint Kubiak, rebuild. Jesse Minter, win now. You should be a Super Bowl contender in 2026. Otherwise, you don't make this move. But Eric DeCosta, good GM. He's got to start hitting on some picks a little bit more often, but he's learned from the great Ozzie Newsome. Interviewed him last week at the NFL Combine. Very impressed by what he does. Steve Bisciotti, a great owner. Raiders trying to get there. And you get there by making a move like this, compiling picks. And if you hit on these draft selections, this is how you get back into Super Bowl contention. Build through the draft because those players are affordable for the next 4 or 5 years. And you help to build a culture. And for the Raiders, hopefully it's a winning culture. I mean, look at what the Eagles have done with Howie Roseman. They have hit so often in the draft. I think 21 of 22 starters over the last few years since 2021 drafted in the first 3 rounds have ended up being starters for the Eagles. Made it to 2 Super Bowls during that stretch. So, first episode of the Chase Down in the books. If you made it until the end of the video, please give me a real one down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm so excited to start this journey. And we're off and running here on the Chase Down. So honored to be hosting this show, and I really appreciate your support.